time, assuming he was just tired from work. But what if it was something else? What if they had been struggling all along and I just hadn't noticed? I picked up my phone again, my heart pounding as I typed a message. I got your text. Do you want to talk? My finger hovered over the send button for what felt like forever before I finally pressed it. A few minutes passed. Then my phone vibrated. Her response was instant, as if she had been waiting for me to reply. Yes, but not over text. Can we meet? And just like that, the situation became even more real. Whatever this was, whatever she had to say, it was something she couldn't risk putting in writing. My stomach twisted. Was I ready to hear the truth? Because something told me that after this conversation, nothing would ever be the same again. I stared at her message, my fingers tightening around my phone. Can we meet? Those three words felt heavier than anything else she had said. My mind raced with possibilities. What was so serious that she couldn't say it over text? Was it about my brother? Was it about her? Or was it something even worse? Something that would change everything I thought I knew about them? I took a deep breath and typed back, "Okay, when and where?" Almost immediately, she sent an address, a quiet coffee shop on the other side of town, a place far from where anyone would recognize us. That alone told me this wasn't just some minor issue. She wanted privacy. She didn't want anyone overhearing what she was about to say. As I drove there, my mind refused to settle. A part of me wondered if I should have told my brother about this first. Wouldn't that be the right thing to do? But then again, how could I tell him anything when I didn't even know what was going on yet? For all I knew, this could be something personal about her, something she needed to share before she was ready to involve him. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting at a corner table with her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. She looked different, tired, nervous. The confident, put-together woman I was used to seeing at family events wasn't here today. Instead, she looked like someone carrying a weight too heavy for one person to bear. I sat down across from her, my pulse pounding in my ears. "Hey," I said quietly. She looked up, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Guilt, fear, regret, maybe all three. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, waiting. The silence stretched between us until she finally took a shaky breath and spoke the words that sent a chill down my spine. "I don't know how to say this, but I had to tell someone. I can't keep it in anymore." And then she told me everything. She took another deep breath, her fingers trembling slightly as she set her coffee down. I could see the hesitation in her eyes, as if she was still debating whether she should say the words out loud. My own chest felt tight, the anticipation almost unbearable. Whatever she was about to tell me, it wasn't going to be small. "I don't even know where to start," she whispered, shaking her head. "I never thought I'd be in this situation, and I never thought I'd have to tell you of all people." "Then why me?" I asked, my voice low but steady. "Why not my brother?" She swallowed hard. "Because I don't know how he'll react, and because I think you deserve to know first." Deserve? The word echoed in my head, making my pulse quicken. What could she possibly mean by that? I didn't dare interrupt as she finally gathered the courage to continue. "It started a few months ago," she said, her voice unsteady. "At first, I thought I could ignore it, that it didn't mean anything. But the guilt has been eating me alive. I can't sleep. I can't pretend everything is normal anymore." I felt my stomach knot up. "What are you saying?" She blinked rapidly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I, I made a mistake," she admitted, barely above a whisper. A mistake that could destroy everything. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. My heart pounded as my mind raced through every possible meaning behind her words. Had she done something behind my brother's back? Was she hiding something from him? Or was it something even worse, something that would change our family forever? I leaned forward, my hands tightening into fists. Tell me the truth. No more hesitating. She bit her lip as if forcing herself to speak. It's about your brother, about us, and about something that I never meant to happen. I could barely breathe. The pieces were falling into place, but I still didn't have the full picture. And something about the way she looked at me, like she was bracing for my reaction, told me that whatever she was about to say next would change everything. She looked down at her hands, her breath unsteady. I could see the weight of her words pressing down on her, but I had no patience left. It all started with a single message, one that made my heart race the moment I saw it. I wasn't expecting anything unusual when I picked up my phone that evening, just another regular night scrolling through notifications. But there it was, a message from my brother's wife. The moment I read the first few words, my stomach dropped. I had to blink a few times, convinced my eyes were playing tricks on me. Was this real? Was she really saying what I thought she was? I sat there frozen, my mind racing through 100 different scenarios. My brother and his wife had always seemed like the perfect couple. They had been married for a few years now, and as far as I knew, things were fine between them. We weren't extremely close, but we got along well enough at family gatherings. She was always polite, always smiling. There was never any reason to think something might be wrong. And yet, the message on my screen told a completely different story. I hesitated before opening it. A strange feeling settled in my chest, a mix of curiosity and dread. What could she possibly want to tell me? My first thought was that maybe she needed advice or help with something. But as I finally tapped on the message and began reading, I realized this was something much, much bigger, something I wasn't prepared for. Her words were blunt, direct, and impossible to ignore. She said she had been keeping something from my brother, something that she couldn't hold in any longer, and for some reason, she had chosen me to be the first person to know. My fingers trembled as I scrolled down, reading each sentence carefully, trying to make sense of it all. With every word, my stomach twisted tighter, and by the time I reached the end, my entire world felt upside down. I looked away from my phone, trying to process what I had just read. My first instinct was to call her immediately, demand an explanation, but something held me back. What if this wasn't meant for me? What if she had sent it by mistake? Or worse, what if this was something I wasn't supposed to know at all? My brother's marriage, his life, everything he thought was stable and secure. Was it all about to come crashing down? I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do next. But no matter how many times I replayed the message in my head, one thing was clear. I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't pretend I didn't know. And whatever decision I made from here, there was no going back. So, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you tell your brother right away? Would you confront his wife? Or would you keep quiet and hope it all went away? Because in that moment, I had no idea what the right answer was, and the next choice I made could change everything. I sat there, staring at my phone, my mind completely blank. My brother had always been the kind of person who kept his life in order. He was responsible, hardworking, and deeply committed to his wife. If there was one person I never thought would have problems in his marriage, it was him. And yet, here I was, holding on to a secret I never asked for, one that could turn his entire world upside down. I read the message again, slowly this time, trying to catch anything I might have missed. But no, it was all there in plain words. His wife was hiding something big, something she was now trusting me with before even telling him. But why me? Why not one of her close friends? Why not a counselor, a sibling, or even my brother himself? The more I thought about it, the stranger it seemed. I considered responding right away, but my hands wouldn't move. What could I even say? I got your message. What do you mean? It sounded too casual for something this serious. Are you okay? That felt too distant, as if I wasn't acknowledging the weight of what she had just revealed. 100 different replies ran through my head, but none of them felt right. Instead, I put my phone down and tried to think. I needed context. Had I missed any signs? I went back through my last few interactions with my brother and his wife, searching for anything unusual. The last time I saw them was a couple of weeks ago at a family gathering. They had seemed normal, laughing, chatting, holding hands like they always did. Nothing about them hinted at trouble. If anything, they looked happy. But then I started remembering little things. The way she had been quieter than usual that night. The way she kept checking her phone when she thought no one was looking. And my brother, he had seemed a little more distracted than normal. I had brushed it off at the for hesitation. Every second that passed felt like a lifetime. Just say it, I urged, my voice sharper than I intended. She swallowed hard and finally met my eyes. Your brother, he's been keeping secrets too. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. For a moment, I thought I misheard her. What do you mean? I asked, my pulse hammering in my ears. She exhaled shakily, her fingers tightening around her coffee cup. I found out a few weeks ago. I wasn't even looking for anything. But then I saw the messages on his phone. She hesitated as if saying it out loud made it more real. He's been talking to someone, a woman, and it's not just friendly. I felt a chill run through me. My brother, the same man who always talked about loyalty, who seemed so devoted to his wife? It didn't make sense. You're sure? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded slowly. At first, I told myself I was imagining things, that it was just some misunderstanding. But then I kept seeing them, late-night messages, calls he'd step outside to take. And last week, she hesitated, her throat tightening. Last week I followed him. I gripped the edge of the table. And her eyes filled with something raw, hurt, betrayal. I saw him meet her. I watched him lie to me in real time. She let out a shaky breath. I was so angry, so hurt. And that's when She cut herself off, pressing her lips together. A sinking feeling settled in my chest. That's when you what? Tears welled in her eyes, and she looked away. That's when I made my mistake. My stomach clenched. I didn't need her to say it outright. I could already piece it together. In her pain, in her desperation to get back at my brother, she had done something she regretted. I sat back, running a hand through my hair. This wasn't just about her anymore. This wasn't just about my brother. This was a mess, one that neither of them could undo. And now, somehow, I was right in the middle of it. I sat there, my mind spinning, trying to process everything she had just told me. My brother had been lying. She had been keeping secrets. And now, I was the one caught in the middle of it all. The weight of it felt unbearable. I let out a slow breath, forcing myself to speak. So, what now? Are you going to tell him you know? She wiped at her eyes and nodded. I have to. I can't keep living like this. But before I do, I need to tell you something else. A fresh wave of unease settled over me. I thought I had heard it all, that nothing she said could shock me anymore. But the look in her eyes told me otherwise. This isn't just about me and him, she whispered. It's about you, too. My chest tightened. What? She hesitated, then finally said the words that made my entire body go cold. The woman he's been seeing, she's someone you know. The world around me seemed to tilt. I shook my head, refusing to believe it. That's not possible. Her expression darkened. It's true. I saw her face, I heard her voice, and I know you're close to her. I felt sick. My mind scrambled through every possibility, every woman in my life who could be capable of this. And then, like a slow-moving nightmare, it hit me. Number it couldn't be. I pushed my chair back, my hands shaking. I need to go. She grabbed my wrist, her grip firm. What are you going to do? I had no answer. My heart pounded, my vision blurred with anger and betrayal. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just my brother's mess anymore. It was mine too, and there was no running from it now. I walked out of the cafe, my mind numb, my legs moving on their own. The world outside felt too normal for what I had just learned. Cars passed by. People laughed on the sidewalk. Life went on as if nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. I barely remembered the drive home. My hands were gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My phone buzzed more than once, but I ignored it. I wasn't ready to talk. Not to her, not to my brother, not to anyone. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do with the truth I never asked for. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the anger had dulled into something heavier, something deeper. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a breaking point. Families weren't supposed to keep secrets like this. Trust wasn't supposed to be this fragile. And yet, here we were. Later that night, my brother called me. I stared at his name on my screen, my heart pounding. For a brief second, I thought about letting it go to voicemail, pretending I didn't know anything. But that wasn't an option anymore. I answered. "Hey," he said, his voice casual, as if everything was normal. "I was just thinking, maybe we should all get together soon. It's been a while." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "Yeah," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "We need to talk." There was a pause, just long enough to tell me he knew something was off. "Everything okay?" I exhaled slowly. It's not. Silence. Then, "What's going on?" I hesitated, feeling the weight of what I was about to do. There was no easy way out, no way to pretend nothing had happened. The truth was here now, and it had to be faced. I took a breath, steadying myself. "You tell me." And just like that, everything was about to change.